Hey guys, we are live. Just checking that you guys can hear me. Hopefully you can. If you jump on this video, can you just comment below and let me know that everything's okay and you can hear me properly? If you haven't met me, my name is Brooke. I am the founder of Love Your Guts, and I really wanted to jump in here and start doing some more education lives for you guys, because there's quite a few questions that seem to be popping up that kind of have the same, thanks Stacey, kind of have the same, go in the same direction. So I thought if I could just do a live video and answer some of them, it'll just be a lot easier. So today our topic is gut health, and does this influence weight loss? Does it help us lose weight? And do they affect each other? So I kind of wanted to start on, let's look at weight loss as an individual thing. And I mean, this is my bread and butter. I've worked as a personal trainer in the past, and as a nutritionist in that sport industry. So weight loss was a really big key focus for a lot of the women that I worked with. And what I found was that generally, and this is normal, that many women focus entirely on their body fat when trying to lose weight. And that makes sense, right? And this inevitably leads you down the calories in versus calories out route, which is what is kind of engraved when you need to lose weight. It becomes a calorie sum. So calories in versus calories out, and then how much body fat you will lose. And this, personally, I don't think this is the best solution. And this kind of leads you, I guess it's kind of a quick fix, and it's not a long-term solution. And it can potentially lead to further issues. So you're initially trying to lose weight, you go down that calories in versus calories out route, and it just leads to further issues that maybe some of you have experienced. I know I've worked with a lot of women that have come to me at the end of that, and there's a lot of issues that we've had to work on from that. So what we should be focusing on is, why is our body storing fat? So let's go back to that initial question, because when the body starts to store fat, it is usually a sign that something's not right, or it's a symptom that something's not right and something's going on. So we start to actually understand that what the underlying issue is, and then we can create some long-term solutions that won't give you that yo-yo effect, it doesn't focus on that calorie in, calorie out kind of equation, and we can get to the actual nitty-gritty of why you're storing body fat. So that's how I like to look at weight loss as a term. So when someone comes to me and says they want to lose weight, the first question that comes through my head is, well, why are you storing body fat? Because it obviously isn't a natural thing for your body to store body fat. So you have to ask, well, why are we storing body fat? What's the underlying issue? Because there are so many underlying issues that contribute to weight gain that isn't necessarily from a calorie in, calorie out. That's not the answer to it. It's more of it could be a hormonal thing, it could be something else. But today we're looking at things that are related to our gut health. So there are three. I've kind of summarized this, and I've got some notes because I tend to go off on a tangent. So the notes are going to keep me on track. So I apologize if my eyes go down or whatever. I'm just making sure I'm on track. But there are three main things that I love to talk about that determine whether the body will store fat or not, so that contribute to weight gain or weight loss, and they're gut health related or gut health specific. So to answer the question, does our gut health affect weight loss? Or to put it better, does gut health affect the way we store fat? Let's start with me saying yes, it absolutely does. And then I've summarized it into three main points that kind of sum this up. So the first one is, obviously, one thing I always hone down on is stress. That's a huge thing. The second one is our gut bacteria plays a significant role in how calories are used in our body. So a calorie isn't necessarily a calorie. So a calorie could be different from me, could be different for someone else. And our gut bacteria influence that. And 3, inflammation. So inflammation, our whole GI tract and digestive system is so sensitive to inflammation. So 100% yes, this influences how we can lose weight or how we gain weight. So they're my 3 points, and I'll go through them. If you have any questions along the way, please just post them below and I'll try to get to them. Otherwise, there's always tomorrow I can come back and I'll keep trying to answer your questions as we go. So let's go into first, let's do inflammation, because that's quite a, maybe an easier one to understand. So let's look at what we're eating. So I always like to say what we're eating is either feeding our good bacteria and increasing that diversity in our microbiome, or it's feeding our bad critters, so our bad bacteria. So when you're eating inflammatory foods, which I'm sure you've heard mentioned in this group plenty of times, and I can go into them again, but when you're eating a high inflammatory diet, so sugars, refined sugars, processed fats, things like that, they feed our bad bacteria. So they feed, I guess, the nasty little critters that cause imbalances and cause all these digestive upsets. And what actually happens, so one bad bacteria in specific, so it's called lipopolysaccharides, and I just wanted to make sure I said that correctly. So it's also abbreviated to LPS if you wanted to Google it further. But that releases toxins in the body that actually triggers inflammation. So when you feed those bad bacteria, they release the toxin that then increases inflammation throughout the body. And when we have inflammation throughout the body, that's when you get excess water weight, you get that water retention, and your body just holds on to fat. It doesn't let go of fat, it holds on to fat. And like inflammation, it causes so many other issues. Weight gain is just one of those. So we really want to reduce inflammation, and a side effect of that will be weight loss. Because when the body's inflamed, its attention goes to that. Its attention isn't going to weight loss. The body's trying to get rid of that inflammation first. So yeah, so when we are feeding that, and nutrition's just one aspect that can cause inflammation. I mean, there's other things like stress can cause inflammation, sleep, reduced sleep, you're not getting enough deep sleep, increases inflammation. So many environmental things can, trigger that inflammation response, and that is kind of feeding our bad bacteria, releasing toxins that we don't want, and inflammation throughout the body increases, and fat storage is increased. So it kind of starts with the bacteria in the gut, but it can be a whole body-wide effect. And there's so many health implications from that. So that's one of them. And I think you'll find that a lot of these points lead back to inflammation. So generally, if we want to have a healthy gut environment, inflammation is the key. Trying to reduce inflammation is key. So let's go on to the second one. And this is actually really interesting. So our gut bacteria plays a significant role in what calories are worth. So this is when we get into trouble when we focus on calories alone when trying to lose weight, because you miss the huge part of weight loss and why our body stores fat. So for example, let's say a piece of sourdough with butter on top, that could be 200 I don't know what that is, but it could be 200 calories for me, but for someone else it could be only 100 calories, and that's because our gut bacteria are so different. So what's inside my digestive tract or GI tract could be so different to the next person. And so it changes what the calories are worth of that piece of sourdough with butter on it. So this is where weight loss becomes not as simple as calories in, calories out, because you could be doing yourself a massive disservice by eating something that the person next to you is eating, because it's not worth the same. So let's go into it a little bit more. So the reason why, so gut bacteria influence, I guess when you're speaking of a calorie, what happens is different gut bacteria, so we have different levels of bacteria in the gut that can influence what is extracted from the food you're eating. So on a nutritional level, but also on an energy level. So that's where the calorie comes in. So different bacteria in your gut can actually influence the energy you get from what you're eating, and also the nutritional value of that food. So, which means that, your gut health does have a massive effect on weight loss or weight gain, and what a calorie is actually worth. So we know beneficial bacteria in the GI tract are undoubtedly linked to health in the body. Weight loss is just one of those things. But certain bacteria in our gut affect our metabolism, and they can also predispose someone to obesity. So our gut bacteria have a huge role, and this is why people say that our gut bacteria have way more power in the body than our genetic makeup. So so when we're speaking of, I might be predisposed to obesity because my mum was obese, and you're talking on a genetic level, your bacteria actually overrides that. So your bacteria are actually considered more important than genes, and you can change your genetic makeup by your bacteria. Because, when we're speaking of bacteria, I'm not just speaking of the gut bacteria. Even our skin has bacteria and its own microbiome, and the brain, it's all interrelated. So there's no doubt that our bacteria in our gut and our digestive tract can predispose someone to obesity. And there is research to back this up. It's fairly new, which is really exciting. So there definitely needs to be more research done, but research does link our environment as a major disruptor to gut bacteria. And when I say environment, I mean, take, for example, myself versus my husband, Nathan. And we're speaking of environmental things that has influenced his gut bacteria compared to mine. So there could be different things, whereas he was raised in the country, I was raised in the city. So I was raised in that more sterilized environment and he wasn't. Maybe, I don't know if this is correct or not, but maybe I had my mum had a natural birth with me. So I was exposed to those beautiful bacteria through the birth process, but Nathan's mum was a C-section. So there's different environmental things that are influencing our bacteria already since we were born. And then you have the other things that I can control. So what I'm eating versus what he's eating, how I'm sleeping versus how he's sleeping, maybe how much I go into different environments like outside, or I go walking, whereas he hates walking. All of these things build up and they create this environment in our GI tract, and they're so different from one another. And there's been solid research that suggests that environment that you've created will impact your metabolism, will impact the way you get energy out of a calorie, the way you use a calorie, and then inevitably your weight, so weight loss or weight gain. And different levels of bacteria. How it does that is different levels of bacteria digest carbohydrates differently, or will store fats differently, or will utilize the energy from a calorie differently. And, you know, the number of these two bacteria will, or the number of different bacteria will kind of determine whether you lose weight easier, if that's your goal, or you gain weight. So they have what I'm trying to get to is that they have a massive impact on this whole weight loss journey that you might be on. There was actually a really interesting study done, I'm pretty sure it was quite recent, and I can post it if you want to read it, but it was done on a set of 77 twins, and it was really interesting because they analyzed their gut bacteria, and they were able to tell like what bacteria each twin had in their environment. And it was a prolonged study where they fed them the same diet, and they came back and one twin was obese from that diet, and one twin wasn't, I guess, from that same diet. So they determined that it really was, and when they looked at the gut bacteria, they could see that they were so different. So the obese twin had a different bacteria environment compared to the other one. And so that was one influencer of why that twin gained weight and the other one didn't. So I find that super interesting, and it kind of, all this evidence is becoming more and more clear that our gut bacteria have a massive impact. So let's move on. That's the second point. And guys, remember, if you have any questions, please comment below, but I don't want to kind of drag this conversation on. The third one that I always talk about is stress. And this has, like, our gut is so sensitive to stress, and stress can be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be one thing. Like, it's so many different things for each person. And our whole GI tract is just so sensitive to this, and the stress causes inflammation in the body, which again changes the diversity of our bacteria in the gut. And you know, if you have that, back to the first point, if you have that inflammation, then you're triggering those lipopolysaccharides to release toxins that increase inflammation. And when we have prolonged chronic stress, another thing that happens is your body actually holds, this has nothing to do, well, it does, but it doesn't have anything specifically to do with gut health. But when you have that prolonged stress in your body reacts in that fight or flight mode. And when we're stressed and we have the cortisol, which is our stress hormone, when that's released again and again and again throughout the body, what that hormone triggers is that your body is in a state of fight. And what happens is when this hormone is so evident in the body, your body, when it's in a state of fight, it is thinking that you're running away from something, or that you need adrenaline to be able to get out of that situation. So it increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure. It pushes blood to your limbs so you can run, and so you can be responsive to that stress. And what that does is it removes the blood that your digestive system needs to process food and to metabolize food. So your body is focused on getting out of that stressful situation rather than digesting your food. So this prolonged stress, and then what actually else it triggers is when you're in prolonged stress, or you have that chronic stress or that chronic cortisol release in your body, what actually happens is your body thinks you're in a state of fight, and it actually holds on to fat rather than releases it, because fat is a protective mechanism for your body. So it tries to protect you by storing fat because you're stressed. It thinks you're in a state of starvation or a state where you have that adrenaline and need that excess energy. So fat is a source of energy, and it actually holds on to that. So I totally went off in a tangent because that's a little bit separate to what I'm talking about here, but it's just other ways of thinking, like instead of thinking calories in, calories out for weight loss, there's other things that could be at play. And a lot of women that I've worked with in the past, the main thing was stress. And when you start to reduce these stresses, your body weight starts to come down. You start to see results, you start to lose weight. And even if you're not trying, because you're reducing your stress, your body just relaxes. That's a really good way to put it. It just relaxes, and all of the hormonal processes and all of your body's natural processes start to come back, and that includes your digestive system as well. So stress is a huge thing. Inflammation is a massive thing. And then this interesting play from our balance of gut bacteria and how that influences what a calorie is worth is another really important factor when trying to lose weight. So I can kind of imagine the next question is, well, how can we improve this? Like if we have different bacteria from someone else and we're not losing weight because of that, then what can we do? And that's a natural question to come from that. And it all comes back to creating a really healthy environment in our digestive system. And the way we do that is by focusing on what we're eating, by making sure we're getting enough enough sleep, and all of these other lifestyle things. Because I always say that if you create a healthy environment, you will have a healthy bacteria, and then you have a healthy body. So healthy environment, healthy bacteria, healthy body. And it's never too late. Like you could be 50, you could be 60. It's never too late to restore that balance and create a healthy environment. Because I know a lot of the women might be 50 or 60 and struggling to lose weight. So it's really, really important that you focus on your gut health and your digestive system and trying to improve that environment, because again, a healthy environment, healthy bacteria, and a healthy body. So ways to improve your environment is obviously through nutrition, what you're eating. You want to eat to reduce inflammation. So this means figuring out what foods are inflammatory to you. And I mean, we hear that a lot of these are gluten, dairy, and refined sugars and processed fats, but it's not necessarily the same for every person. So that's why there's a little bit of trial and error to see how your body responds. But just eating a really diverse whole food diet will undoubtedly improve your gut bacteria. So if you could just do that one step and that one step alone, you'll be on your way to building a really healthy environment for your body. And another thing is sleep, and we can go into all these in more detail later. But sleep, making sure you're getting good sleep, making sure you're going outside, even doing 20 minutes of gardening or something a day or a week. Sorry, I know that's unrealistic. 20 minutes of gardening a week. This can expose you to some really, really diverse bacteria that's going to help build a healthy environment in your gut. So there's so many different things. And I know Chelsea's done a few lives about these things, so you can go back through the videos and understand. But this this whole topic about gut health affecting weight loss is super interesting, and it's so relevant. And it's usually, well, it's generally at the moment something that's kind of skipped over, because weight loss has been such a calories in, calories out equation that that's typically what's gone like focused on first. But it just doesn't work for everyone, and I've seen this so clear. And you know what I'm eating to lose weight, if that's my goal, compared to what the next person's eating to lose weight, we're eating the same calories. It's not going to work. It's not going to, you know, one thing that works for me is not going to work for the next person, because we have different gut bacteria, we have different environments, we so many things influence it. But it's super important to know that if you can start with your gut, everything else tends to flow from there. So I mean, you're in this group, you're obviously super invested in learning about gut health and how you can improve your environment. And, you know, weight loss is just a side effect of that, if that's your goal, to lose weight. So remember to eat to reduce inflammation, which will improve your environment, which will improve your gut diversity, will give you all of those beautiful beneficial bacteria that you need to get the most nutrition and energy that you need out of a calorie, which is so different from the next person, how each person uses a calorie. And that will improve the health of your entire body, and weight loss is just a side effect of that. And you're actually getting to the root of why you're storing fat, and that could be because of your gut bacteria. You don't have a healthy environment there, and you don't have a diverse the diversity that you need. So yeah, essentially I went through those 3 points that I wanted to. I got a little bit sidetracked, but that's why I have notes. I need to look at them more. But if you have any questions, actually I think does intermittent fasting help with gut health, or does it put more stress on your body? That's a really good question. It's so different for every single person, and I know I sound like a broken record when I say that, but it really is. A lot of the intermittent fasting, a lot of the studies, a lot of the information that we read is from men. So when we look at intermittent fasting for women, it's a completely different story, because of our hormones respond so differently to things like that. So you do have to be really careful how you go about it. But in saying that, having a break between meals, so, you know, like maybe having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's it, having that break between meals is really beneficial for your gut health, and it enables the bacteria to do what they need to do and have time to do that before having more food to start the process again, if that makes sense. But I mean, like intermittent fasting, so for those who don't know what it is, I mean, like there's different types, but typically the most common is having 16 hours after your last meal, so after dinner and before your next meal. So it could, you have your last meal at 7 p.m. the night before, and then your next meal is somewhere around 11 or 12 the next day. And yes, it can be really beneficial for your gut health, and it lowers inflammation. It can reduce inflammation so quickly, and it starts to restore cells that might be damaged and things like that. There are some really great benefits out of it, but a lot of those research benefits are done on men. So as a woman, you do have to be, you just have to monitor it, really. You have to be a little bit careful, because it can stress your body out more. It can go into that fight or flight response that I was talking about before, and you can actually store fat rather than lose body fat. So yeah, it's just really different for each person, and I don't think I can give you a specific answer just through Facebook like this. But yeah, it can go both ways. Maybe one thing I tend to recommend for women is to start with 12 hours. So 12 hours between your last meal and then your next meal. And that's a really good way to start. And then maybe once a week or twice a week, you could push it out to 16 hours. See how you feel. Make sure it's on days where you don't have high intensity training and there's no other stress that could really be put on top of that, because there are great benefits for reducing inflammation and starting to increase the diversity of your gut bacteria. So yes and no, it depends on the person, but if you want to chat to me more about it, I'm happy to talk to you, Stacey. Yeah, and if you guys have any more questions, don't be afraid to ask, because I love questions. It's how you get to know and understand things better. And I know I can be get a little bit off topic sometimes, so it's always good to clarify things. But yeah, let's leave it at that, and I will jump back on here soon.